So, yeah, like you said, I've been at this for about 30 years. When I was 18 years old, I took it upon myself to dive into the plant world. I was not a happy person. I mean, I looked okay on the outside. The inside was just sheer hell and torture. And it got to be so much to the point that I could not neglect it. I couldn't park that aside and do a career for 30 years and then get back to it. It was now or never. So I threw myself at the feet of teachers. So I had a Lakota medicine man who was my teacher, and his name was Joseph High Eagle. And Joseph High Eagle's teacher was Nicholas Black Elk. And that's where, the real shamanism started. And he taught me with peyote, taught me with mushrooms, sage, tobacco. Tobacco is a very powerful plant. And it has a lot of properties that could help us if used in the correct manner. So when we do ceremonies, we actually will blow tobacco on everyone. Right? And what you're calling in is, in the plant kingdom, mapacho is a tobacco, and it brings out the spirit that grounds you, puts you right here, right, and then protects that, so you can get your whole being like right here. Right? So when he was teaching me these things, there's a lot of visionary states that go on. And for me, it was put away the visions and implement the well-being. Park the visions, because the only thing you're going to do about those is think about them. And implement the well-being of the presence you're feeling at the time. Right? So, I studied with him. I studied with a man by the name of Sunday Morning Star. And I also studied with a man by the name of Ben Valdez. And like you said, Carlos Castaneda came into the picture. And it was interesting because for the time I worked with Carlos, he wouldn't let me take plants. We did no plant medicine of any kind. He basically told me, you have done enough up to this point. It's time for you to integrate what you've done. Because you're not really connected to the world in the way society is anymore after that. Right? You're not really connected to life in the same way that the rigmarole right out this window is doing. Right? You're connected to life in a more intensely close, almost like a vibrational kind of way. Right? It's not about who I am in the world. It's not about what people expect of me. It's not about what I do for dollars. It's about opening up. There's this thing looking out of our eyeballs. It has been with us our whole lives. Right? The two things we know is this has been here the whole time we've been alive. This thing looking out of the eyeballs. And the heart beating. Right? So you start to tie into life with those instead of concept and, little ways of, acting with people that are catchy and clever, but no one's ever really knowing it. Right? So in doing these things, you kind of see that you're kind of taking a break, if not a complete break off, from where society is going as a whole, where it's taking its group consciousness. Right? You start going, okay, no more of that. I have to start doing this my own way. Well, there's some reconciliation that needs to go on there. Right? Because you still have to live in this world where the dominating factor within consciousness is what's going on around you. Right? So it makes it very hard to stay right here instead of just scattered across 1,000 ideas of things. Right? 1,000 responsibilities, 1,000 habits. Right? To really be present. So you have to, I had to adjust my life in such a way, and that's where Carlos really did the most help. Because you have to adjust your life to where you don't sacrifice the integrity of who you are as a being. And that is being alive. That's being. For what's going on around you. Right? And so, it's, 2 years of that. And then he passed away. And I had my moment of ash. Right? I had learned a lot up to that point. I have traversed this consciousness. I have learned to map this out. I have learned to understand what is actually influencing me. Whether it be truth, whether it be fantasy in my head, whether it be emotions that I don't want to deal with, feelings of inadequacy that kind of cripple your move. Right? When anxiety creeps in and suddenly you're changing what your actual intention was because you want to quell this anxiety. You move away from opportunity. You see, so it's I had to learn how to balance that out. And it's hard. It's not an easy thing. I'm 48 now. So I've been at this a very long time, and I never took a break, right, from understanding what consciousness is. Because when we talk about plants, we are talking about consciousness. We're not talking about phyla, what the stem looks like, how many points are on the leaf, how you mix it, how much do you take, any of that. That is all on you, right? But what it really is about is consciousness. So when these indigenous folks, and all the ones I ran around with were far more indigenous than most people in the United States, living as simply as possible, right? Kind of under the radar, trying to keep their energetic integrity from being assaulted by this all the time. Because out there, when we're part of that society, we think we already understand life. We think we already know, and we're just going to go listen to someone tell us their version, and maybe, it'll help us know more. But none of us know a thing. That's the first element of consciousness. Because nobody knows anything. What's looking at your eyeballs? Can you name that? Can you identify that? Can you put your finger on it? Where's it coming from? Coming from your brain? Do you feel it there? Does it come from your beating heart? Do you feel it there? Where is it actually streaming in from? No one really knows, right? So how do you know anything else? If you don't know what's looking, how do you have any idea what it is you're actually looking at? Right? So, to me, the exploration that plants offer us is to get to understand in a very intimate way what is looking out of our eyeballs, what is beating the heart inside the chest, what is in the air that we're breathing in and out, and what is this world we're actually in. Right? And where does this world exist? Inside of an infinite universe. And we know what exactly? About that. Right? Now we've allowed something else to step in and become a platform, a foundation for us to manufacture a self on top of, like a temple unto ourselves. It's called our identity. Right? And we can call that ourselves. We can say, this is me, but is there really any truth in that? Right? What holds that up other than you? Right? So we're already, from the time we're born, our consciousness is geared towards creating a foundation, a behavioral foundation, and then building a self on top of that. This is not being. Being is this, and this, and this. And all of this going on. Right? You don't even have to talk about it, and there it is. right? Like identity, you have to talk about that. Being, you don't. It's here. It's you. It's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. Right? Beating heart, looking out of eyeballs, body animated. That's the exploration. You understand what I'm saying? When you get into working with plants, what you're trying to actually do, whether you understand it or not, or what it actually lends itself to, is showing you that. Right? Nothing out here. I mean, the only thing it's going to show you is this is kind of a crime going on out here. Nature is the victim of this crime. Because we're spinning. And the world we're making is not good for us. No doubt about it. I mean, it's spun everywhere. You go to the woods, you go to the valley, you go to the desert, you go to the city, hell, you go to the moon, it's spun. Right? So that's the only thing it's going to show you about what's around. But within, it's going to show you life. Right? It's going to show you how this connects to all of that infinite right there. Right? And so the plants will always make you aware of the heartbeat. Right? Your attention just goes on it. Just that. Right? And it brings you here. So let's just say for sake that you are made of life force, right? The combination of all this animation, beating heart, looking at eyeballs, that is life force. And you have a lot of it to live your life, to do your things, but you have a lot of it, but not an infinite amount in the way you are now. So, you spend that. Do you get that? So when you have an idea, you're spending that. Right? When you have a need, you're spending that. When you have a desire, you're spending that. If you need distraction, you're spending that. If you need more distraction, you're spending even more. If you need to get inebriated, you're spending a lot. So it gets fragmented. So your actual ability to be present gets fragmented. So you're going to feel like your energy level is low. Right, because there's not enough life force streaming to you anymore. It's streaming to the ideas you've got. Right, and having you carry this out. It's not actually making it here. Like it's all tied up in, right? We all have experienced this, right? Yeah? So it shows you how to block that. Right? How to understand what that is. These thoughts, right? They're just a process of brain. Right? Brain through senses experiences the world. Thought is a process of that. It's not the truth. It's not the fact. It's not the condemnation. It's not the judgment. It's just process. Right? So there's that, and then there's emotion. I mean, there's all these things compressed inside that we're calling ourselves. Those plants unravel that, all of it, until you're just a being just shining. I mean, it feels amazing, immaculate. Are you high? No. That's the funniest thing about plants is by the time you have worked with them and seen through that and really learned your lessons of what compromises being, what it's made of and what can compromise it. When you start to align your value system with feeling good, well-being, all your energy ending here, well, that's a different system you're talking about. Right? There are levels of consciousness that you can tap into unless you are fully here, are inaccessible. I mean, you could really float right out of this room if you are fully here. See, when I took those plants over all those years, I wanted to understand God. I felt that this consciousness of rising inside from removing all this debris, all the lie, whatever you call it, just the lies about yourself. Looking at situations and going, oh my God, this is what's troubling me. I mean, I found pretty quickly that what they do is they'll point out what's wrong. That's the kind of fear in it that's built into working with plants. Is you're going to be shown what's wrong in your life. Right? It's going to point right to it, and all your attention is going to go right to it. Right? And hopefully, when you're, I was paying, for me it was good. I was paying attention. That's what I wanted. Right? I wasn't doing this for exploration. I wasn't doing this for field study. I wasn't doing it to write books. I was doing it to understand what this is. What being alive, I mean, it was, with the emotions and the feelings and the tactile and the non-tactile and the dreams and, life. The all-encompassing field of that. I wanted to understand that way more deeply. So I valued, let me look at my stuff. My turd pile. Turds. And let me reconcile that mess. Right? And as I'm doing that, it's very interesting. It's so like a visionary state of that is you see like a bunch of shells that you could bust apart. And then all of a sudden there's more of you back. Right? You hold a shell, there's a story, there's a vision of you in some old thing that just really hammered you and you just didn't understand how much it hammered you. And that unravels. And then all of a sudden there's more of you back. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So working with ayahuasca is a lot like that. It takes you into areas of your life that are energetically confounded to where, just imagine this so you can follow me. That what you are as a body, right, would be a projection. Right? And what's projecting the body is this energetic mandala behind it. Right? And it's in perfect symmetry when the person is perfectly healthy. But when the person has issues within, whether they be emotional, mental, psycho-spiritual, any of these kinds of things, those are knots in the energy field. Right? So where there used to be perfect symmetry and balance, whenever we have any of those issues come up, there's little tweaks in the energy field. Right? It's almost like you see perfect symmetry and then it's just warped somehow. When you look at it, it kind of makes you a little nauseous. I see it on people when I do that work with them. I see that on people. Just this energy field behind it. You can see where the faults are. It's not just something to judge. It's just energetic knots. Right? So working with ayahuasca, it goes to those. Right? And everything is made of energy. So it just starts unraveling the knot. So first of all, it could dive you right into re-experiencing trauma. Right? Trauma you may have had that you totally didn't even know you had. Right? That it had been suppressed so efficiently and so precisely and so perfectly that you go around behaving in a way that you don't understand. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm behaving this way. What's wrong? I don't know what's wrong with me. That kind of stuff. Right? So you can go through your whole life behaving like that, And it's tied to something that you don't longer remember. Right? So with ayahuasca, it takes you there. Because it sees, oh, there's an issue here. Like I said, the plants take you to the problems. It says, oh, there's an issue here. It's going to dive right down into here. And suddenly you are re-experiencing that trauma to make you aware of the fact that it's there first. Right? And then it's going to show you a version of it you have not seen. Plus, you're going to have your version of it from who you are now. Right? You're going to have the emotions and feelings of where that was. At whatever age that is. Are you following me? Right? So, there's that. Right? So you're having the feelings of the age, but you're getting the perspective of that experienced it, the you that experienced it, the you are now, and at least one more other, which they call Grandmother Aya. She's the spirit behind the medicine. It's very real. Doesn't seem real from the point of consciousness we're engaging with now. But when you take the tea, you're engaging at a completely different level. You understand how that could happen consciously? It just, bing, just kind of turns your energetic fibers just a little bit differently. So it links in with the universe in a completely new way. Where it's like, wow, this is like an open channel. Where things just flow through you, to you, by you, around you. Right? So it takes you to those points and it gives you the experience again. So you get the perspective of the grandmother and whoever else is around, which could be numerous amounts of things. Right? And you re-experience this, but then you also get to see, so, for a lot of people it's molestation. I mean, vast majority of those issues come from kids being molested. It's a bigger problem. Well, we all know how big it is. It's a lot bigger than people want to actually acknowledge. Right? So there's a lot of people who go through that. It's been suppressed, but then it comes out. Right? So first you hear the whimpering, the child. Right? And then you can see and feel them as they are, like seeing it, facing it. And then you can see all the support systems that are built in, guides, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, built in, just kind of supporting that. Right? It just kind of keeps going up and stacking up until it's tied into the universe. It's almost like this portal, right? And then there's this kind of wave of energy that goes with it. Right? That it gets underneath that trauma where it's like sediment within you. It just starts pushing it up, pushing it up, pushing it up, pushing it up. And it pushes it out. And usually when they push it out, they puke into a bucket. The two are connected. Which, brain chemistry is here. Right? So if something's going to hack your brain, it's going to do it here. Not here. So because that's what's feeding this. Right? So that's why the puking. Right? It's stirring up all that stomach. Whatever that brain chemistry that is being manipulated can come out. I know, it's all tied together. It's very strange because it goes with the behavior. The behavior being carried out from trauma is going to start with brain chemistry. Right? So there's actually like a entity that can get trapped in the gut. Right? Not trapped, basically conquered the gut. And hacking brain chemistry to get you to behave a certain way. It's very far-fetched. I mean, I don't know if I'm going outside of the bounds of things, but they exist. They come out in the bucket. I mean, they can be alive and swimming around. You could just be a pile of black, just a spent oil is what it looks like. Just greasy and black. Right? So it comes out with this trauma, right? So it's embedded in every aspect of our being. And that's that one medicine that touches every aspect of your being. So then, first it clears out the body of the thing itself, right? Which, in the state where you're working with someone, you're watching like the leviathans coming out of them. Like these creepy, twisted, like versions of them just flying out. pushing it out. Because these behaviors create darkness. It's just what they do. It's a behavior outside of well-being and connection. It's darkness. It's just what it's going to be. It has to be lit up by the being. Right? We go down these avenues that there's no light down those. There's no well-being down those. But we go down them anyway. So that's part of that behavior, that cycle behavior. So first it clears out the body, and then it goes into the mind. And it sits there and plays the thing out of the mind. Right? It's like the spirits that the plants are to help you cleanse your consciousness of all this stuff that really doesn't serve us. Right? So then it goes into the mind and undoes the patterns of thought that are created out of this trauma. Right? Once those are cleared out, here comes the emotions. Right? Because everything's kind of the same thing but masking. Right? So then the emotions come up. And that's where the real interesting part of it comes. Because up to that point, it's pretty easy to go along with this one. Can you forgive it? Is usually what you hear within that space is, can you forgive this? Can you actually let this go? Right? And in that space in consciousness, that when they're at that state of consciousness, it's a lot easier to do. Because you realize that, wait a minute, if I just let this go, I feel better. If I just forgive this whole thing, and usually it's not forgiveness based out of just, okay, I forgive you. It's you see the story of the perpetrator too. Right? And it's kind of interesting. It's like they always see this. Like a lot of people who have said that coming out of those ceremonies, like, it was weird. It was like suddenly the spirits were showing me that the person that did this to me, it happened to them too. And it was just being perpetuated through. And that it's not really any individual, it's this other thing. Right? And so it's easier to forgive. Right? And then there's just this flush of gratitude that goes with that. Right? Because well-being is really what we're after. When you really go through the plants to the point where you've got well-being, you're not tripping anymore. You're not having these massive visionary states anymore. It's like you're more sober than you've ever been. It's like you are so dialed in to what your integrity actually is. Instead of like, oh, it's in my thing. No, it's right here. Right? And you could actually engage the world with full integrity. It will engage you back at the same rate. And that is, to me, that's heaven on earth. When you can just really let go of, all of this definition of self. Right? And just really tap in with this. That's been your friend the entire time. Your mind's not always been your friend. This has. Right? So you experience those states beyond your mind. And then it's that healing moment. And you watch that the energetic configurations shift. They're back in symmetry. And then you see a person who came in low and down, beaming like they never have before. Right? And how do you ask them, how do you feel? I feel perfect. I feel this is me. It's like, right. Now stay with that. Right? So plants are very good at showing us those things. Peyote's very good at it. They all have, they're all slightly different. Right? In this, I've always adhered to the understanding of the spirits. A lot of people have just, thrown all that away. And it's like, no. If you do that, you think you're going to stay at this consciousness level forever. Eventually, you're going to have to go face them. Because as you develop this thing looking at your eyeballs, well, it develops to a point where you're going to start touching other dimensional realities, where you're going to intermingle with things much larger than you. That we would be babies there. You get what I'm saying? That's kind of what plant medicine does. It connects you back to the universe right? It moves you beyond a dimension to where you have access to this other stream of information. Right? To where people have sat in ceremonies and they sat with their deceased ones. There are plenty who have sat with their deceased mother, deceased father, deceased brother. And we're actually sitting there with them. So this thing we think we understand, looking out of our eyeballs, we don't. And that's the dangers of doing this stuff, doing plans. You're going to be shown things you can't unsee. I'm sure there's plenty of people who've dove into that world and did not like what they saw, and that's going to be their point of trauma for the rest of their life. Because it will. It will show you things about you that you don't want anyone else to see. That you try your damnedest to not put on someone else. You get to see that. Because it's part of you. For good or for worse, it's part of you. Right? And, you have to really be in an honest place to even venture there. Honest with, do you really know what you feel? Are you sure of what you feel? Does it match what you think? Are you unified right here? Because if you're not going to be honest about what's real, then you aren't going to be able to face the real. Right? So it's not like, I know a lot of people have the idea we go off into fantasy land and we just drift around and wow. When a lot of it is, there's hard stuff coming up for people. Hard stuff that's true and real, and they've got to face it. And it makes it more real to them and more apparent than it's ever been. Right? And they have to look at that. Right? And you're never sure of what that's going to be, even within your own self. That which is hidden from you is hidden from you. Right? And sometimes there's a crafty thought process running around in there, having you elude yourself all the time. Right? But the end result is, to be safe in it, is you try to arrive at a state of well-being, energetic presence, fully in the body. Right? Elevated state of awareness. That's what well-being to me is. An elevated state of your own awareness. Which really only means that you give a whole bunch of value and attention to your awareness now. Right? So if you can see where behavior fragments you, if you can see where thought processes, needs, desires, all that behavior, if you see how that distracts you and fragments your awareness, right? Just use what awareness you have left to pull that all back in. You'll all have the experience of pretty much the plant kingdom without even touching it. You just have to bring your whole self here. Not the identified self, not the manufactured one. You, as a conscious presence. Right? You as a being full of vibratory energy. vastly different is that than most of your day?
Very.
And that's our responsibility, right? You're going to carry that, then you have to be that. Matter of fact, it's not even carrying it, you're being it. Right? An expression of well-being, expression of sanity, right? An expression of balance. And that's what's in the saints, right? Expression of compassion. Instead of saying, oh, I have so much compassion, I know this, I know that, I know this, I know that, then every behavior shows exactly the opposite. That's where we're almost like in a suicidal mind slide. By watching it, it's like a lot of people they'll say what's important. I'll tell you what's important. I'll tell you what's important, and then you go watch and do everything else but that. It's like they can tell you what's important, but man, look where the activity is. Look where the value is. Where the attention is. Right? I mean, that's the thing you learn about most is what you really are is attention. And you give it to things. Hi. That's attention. Life force. Movement. Hello. That's attention. Do you give it to this? Do you give it to this? Or do you give it to all of this? Do you give it to this? Does this have attention? And that's what's giving things value. Right? I mean, really? Isn't that what gives things value is attention? But what do we give attention to? Right? And then we have this, I give it to this and that, this and that, this and that. Oh, really? Really? Right? You get a little more honest and you see you give it a lot. Bull crap, really. A lot of useless nonsense. Drivel, really. Right? And that's your life. That's the interesting part, is that's the juice of your life. You don't have to do any of that. And I guess we do that if we get bored. Well, what if you just sat and felt bored? Just felt that and let that just really be there. Instead of going and spending a bunch of energy because bored says you should. What if you just sat with bored and said, no, I know what you want me to do, bored. I'm not going to put energy towards that. But we're bored. And I know you're bored. I'm not going to put any energy to that. You know, most people cave in. They just do what boredom says. Boredom says, go do this. All right. Well, you jumped out of a process that was just getting started. I was going to clear you of some of that BS that you tell yourself about yourself. That's all that was going to happen. That's where boredom comes in. No. It's almost like there's an entity running around in the mind that needs your attention to exist. And if it doesn't get it, it's going to die. So it convinces you that you are it, and you'll die too. If you let it go. You know what I mean? Right? So I call that like boredom. Fear is a good one. Everybody's got their own little version of that one. Do you notice that when it comes up, you do what it says? You ever notice that? Like when anxiety rises up, you just do what it says and slink out of the room. All awkward. You ever notice that? That you become a slave to these things by giving them attention? Now, what if you weren't giving them that attention? Would they be able to do that? Would those, it would just personify these things for a minute. Fear, anxiety, doubt, worry, depression, self-loathing, lack of self-worth, self-esteem issues, homicidal thoughts, suicidal thoughts. Just suspend all that for a minute. Right? If you were completely here as a conscious living being created by something you truly know nothing about, but you feel a deep connection to, right? Would you value that over all the noise in your head? Do you value your state of presence as a full unified being, energetically present? Would you exchange that dignity for the noise in your head? No, that's what you are. What do you think's beating the heart? You don't hear that whole pulse of the universe? You don't hear it during your day? What if you just valued that? You didn't let anxiety go, oh, we're going above your heart rate. Your mind's become a little too active. Go do this. Go eat a donut. You said, yeah, no. So what's interesting is the more you say no, the more you see what the true intention of those elements of life are. Right? Because the more you say no to them, the darker they become. The more invasive they try to be, the more angry they get with you. And just start rumbling. And they just get all, don't let me go, don't let me go. Don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. Don't see what I'm doing to you and get free of it. Right? And that's where you really, where the chips are down, that's where sanity is on the line. You have to walk that line, right? But this is it. That's where you get it from. I mean, for me, it was pretty easy. It's like, all right, to get through this, I'm just going to do what's in front of me. I'm not going to create anything. I'm just going to cleanse my imagination of all kinds of phantasmagorical ideas of life. Right? So that way when I'm going to process my life, it's not going to be all this delusion. It'll just bring it down to what's actually happening. Right? And then they start working together a little bit better. Right? And then you are back here where you should be, in body, right? And you get to chase those things out. Because if you're valuing what those negative feelings are and the behaviors around them, more than you're valuing a sense of well-being, they live in your house, you don't. They live here, you're out there somewhere. So eventually you come home, boom, and you've got to clear out the rats. Right? Because the minute you vacate this, because you don't like what's going on, the minute you move out, something rushes right in. And that's the nature of life. Filling spaces. Right? So you have to be here. Here. Not so much up here. This can do its own thing. That's why it's, the brain. But it's not all powerful. It requires this to exist. If the brain's so powerful, why does it need a body to carry it around? Right? So there's an element that we've learned from the plants that I want to share because I think you guys might get this. Okay? And basically, energy. That's what we are, right? And then, even when you take plants, you feel energy. Any type of excitement, any type of stimulation, you're feeling energy. Right? That's not meant for the mind. Right? So the minute you give it to the mind, it's going to spin out of control. It'll usually go into states of manic, or just the opposite states of depression, or just sit there and flip back and forth like this. right? And the main reason being is all that energy load coming in isn't meant for you to try to figure out with your mind. Mind is a process of brain. It does not work with energy at all. Right? It structures around it to reveal it. But it doesn't work with it in that way. Right? It's within you. Talking about within you. Yeah, it works all kinds of things out there. I'm talking about in here. Okay, let me make that straight. Your being. So, the energy coming in is for the entirety of your being, which is your brain, the whole of you, your whole you. This, right? And so these energies come in and the mind goes, oh, we got to do something with this. It doesn't know what to do. So it just starts throwing things in every direction, which is called fragmentation. Right? Just sending out vast copies across its neural network to see if we can find a solution to this. Right? That's never going to work. You got to let the energy in first into the brain, because that's where you're going to feel it or notice it first. It's right in here. Right? You just push it. You just consciously tell the brain and the mind to let the energy drop into the body. Right? And the minute it gets into here, this is where all the processing of that energy to feed this comes from. You have to go through it before you know it. You don't get to know it's on the other side of a veil until you cross through that veil. It's veiled from you. That's why you don't get to see beyond it. Same thing. Right? So these, you let the organs do the processing of the energy. Right? You let all the systems take the energy and smooth it out. And what's really cool about that is you have stories around that energy. You've got emotions built up, fairy tales, delusions, maybe even some truths around it. Right? You have all this history with it. Well, these don't. Right? These just go, oh, energy, process. There's no story, no attachment, no thought, no history. Just, oh, here we go. Doing our thing. Right? And then it spills that energy out, and that's what the brain can uptake. And it's doing it with such ease that you actually start getting into this flow of well-being where life's not that. It's rough. Yeah, it's rough on everyone. But it's so worth it. Right? Instead of being this big hassle. Because you're completely connected to the life stream again. It's all one life stream. You're all part of one giant emanation. It's all intact already. Right? We're just seeing it through fragmented lenses. Not clear. If we did, we'd go, oh wow. I have all these behaviors that consume so much attention. I have all these needs and desires based in rooted things that I never wanted to look at, but once you get rid of them, that energy is freed up. And if you take that and you use that attention that's freed up to value your life force as it is, it doubles up on itself. It's like you're in it. I mean, it's interesting because that's the abundance human beings have is here. Your planet is not abundant, not at the rate it's being consumed. This is the awareness behind the eyeballs. Right? That consciousness, that's what's abundant. Right? So once you reconnect with that, and you realize the trees and the animals and all the living things, hell, even the space around you, it's just loaded with life force. It kind of tends to curb you of all kinds of anxieties. Right? It won't curb you of sadness. Nothing will. That's just going to exist. What we refer to, that heaviness of sadness, that's always going to be there. Right? That's the balancing act. That's what's going to keep us sane. You follow me? Yes? So what time is it? We got what? An hour?
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, I've been out of it for a couple of days myself. And I don't tend to try to speak to inform. I'm really looking to just shift the state of consciousness into a place where, we could do some work with trying to heal that. So, what I brought, it's called a shikapa. These are used in the Amazon and ayahuasca ceremony. It's the main instrument. Right? So whenever someone's got like this thing going on that you need to let go of, that sound is like heaven. And what we're going to do, if you're up for it, is a little bit of what it would be like to sit in on a ceremony. Because it's not about talking like we've been doing. Right? It's about three things: frequency, vibration, energy, combined to be presence. You get what I'm saying? So it's really about being right here. And they always say, live from the heart. There's all this iconography around the heart. Well, you realize the heart grew the body, right? You ever notice that? The very first thing that's evident is a heart. The body grows around it. So, at your very conception was pulse. Right? And that's not just here. It's not just in you. It's in every movement, in every living thing across the universe, the multiverse. Right? It exists in all living things everywhere. Right? When you can harmonize with all that, no matter where it's at, boom, you are part of that living oneness. I don't mean this in a philosophical, think about this kind of a way. Feel that. You're actually sitting on a planet, in a body. Right? Just be intimate with that. Feel the weight of that.
Excuse me.
Feel the weight of your own body. Pay attention to that spot. Just give all your attention to that. Take a huge breath. Right? When you breathe in, kind of do it consciously. Do it for yourself. I breathe in life. You breathe out all that doesn't serve me. I breathe in life force because it's right there in front of me, undepletable. How do I know it's life force? Stop breathing. It's no longer. So it's an element of life force. Right? So breathing is life force. So engage it. Don't stop it. Don't make it short. Just kind of put your mind on just breathing. Just actually intend breath to go to your heart. Right? Intend that aspect of being alive to go through the heart. Intend to fill your lungs. Life force. life force, water is life force. Don't cut yourself short. It's not like it's depletable. You don't have to pay a bill for it. There is not a meter running on how many breaths you take or how deep they are or how long they last. You're not going to get a premium charge for that. And for now, well, you kind of get taxed on it, but that's abstract. Just close your eyes, relax. And when I say relax, I mean really relax. Don't think, nothing to think about. I'll be waiting for you shortly. You want to be aware of the heart beating in your chest. You want to be aware of the air going into your lungs. You can do this with gratitude that keeps you animated. The physical body you're enjoying so much. Without it, dead. Dead, dead, dead. Just try to really be right here. Completely right in your body. You know, I try to let all blocked life force in beyond its boundaries. Let all life force meant for you to go right to you. So relax enough to not be resistant. So when we do this, we call them spirits. The spirits of the four directions. From the east, where life force comes from. From the south, where youth and vigor and perseverance come from. We call them the spirits of the west, where protection and wisdom and introspection come from. We call it the north, where abundance and life force doubling up on itself at the end of each round comes from. We call it the Mother Earth. Truly, it's a womb. You were once an embryo baby in your mother's womb. You got food, water, air, and shelter. When you came out of that womb as a little baby, you plopped into a world that gave you food, air, water, and shelter. Hence, Mother Earth, but for the cosmic being, not the working 9 to 5 named being, the cosmic being, the ones that were adorned in feathers. We also call it the Great Spirit, or we call it Akashi, to cap our space. So we're in protected space, psychically, energetically, emotionally, physically. All things are okay enough that we can let go of our identity for a moment, experience start calling in medicine spirits we're working with. We always call in Grandpa Pacho, because that's the great protector. He had medicine spirits, all the medicine spirits. We don't do this in English. Not really any language. We do this with vibration. So from where you're at right now, we got a little time left. No more of that, or do you want to talk some more?
I'd like to use it.
More drawing.
Yeah,
More
that's
that.
Judy.
Right, but it's going to get weirder. Feels a little different than daily routine, doesn't it? And we need to see the nuances in our own consciousness. Where we feel that threshold. Don't develop stories, just breathe past it. Once we start valuing that as presence, as life, as well-being, then our consumption problem pretty much solves itself. Because you'll find that most of what you do out there is a distraction. And the essential fear that you don't know who you are. The mind's not here to tell you what you are. It is a process of who you are. It cannot tell you who you are. It is merely a process, an aspect of who you are. If you're asking for the part to describe the whole and tell you what the whole is, that's not going to happen. Never. The more we try to solve these problems intellectually, or just sit and debate, it doesn't do anything. It does nothing. You might spend 30 years going through it passionately to figure that out. See here. Well-being is what the universe gave you. And it's pretty solid. It's been doing it since before you could remember. Right? Earth has been held just a perfect distance from the sun for longer than you can remember. That made you too. That made you too. You're in it too. You're in it like the sun, you're in it like Jupiter, you're in it. Are you not? That flow of life looking through your eyeballs is not real. Just what you think about is real. See the mind, see the tricks the mind plays? Trying to get you to solidify your identity, put a shield up around it, guarding someone from learning more. Very strange. You see, so, there's a resurgence of plant medicine in this country. Damn well there should be. Because these are such weighty things in us, our emotions, our feelings, our confusion about life, our confusion about what our connection to it is. We think our connection to life is getting in a car and going shopping. Not maybe us, but by and large, that's what we're living in. Right? That's what's in the groupthink. And that somehow we're going to consume ourselves right into well-being. And it's just not going to happen. And then we have all this ancient stuff written, and then all the religions that are coming out of this, telling us all along, regardless of what anybody believes about any of them, regardless of all the dogma and BS in them, they're all saying the same thing, essentially. What made you is in you. That which made you is animating you every single day. And has never stopped doing that for you. Ever. How do you know? You're still here. No matter what you did, no matter where you went, it's still you. You still get to be. Right? So there's the well-being comes this way. Love comes this way. You get that? Do you realize it? Love is this. That's also hate, but hate is like, huh, wait a minute. Okay, now. Love is just, hate is like, it's pretty simple stuff. Right? Common sense is an element of wisdom. Right? Petty is not an element of wisdom. It's an element of mental gyration. Anybody got any questions? Have I lost anyone? Any of this? Is jabber? Have I? Is there, we can speak up if I have. Go ahead.
So, fairly new to plant medicine, and you said this ritual or this practice was part of a larger ritual. Is that
so? Yeah. It's been kids will eat this stuff and go to music festivals, right? And then sit there in a train just baking their brains, because they don't have the right setting for it, right? Which is why the vast interest in more native structure, culture. Their cultures aren't the greatest. It's got its crap like we have ours. Don't get me wrong. But they've developed a way of holding what we call sacred space. The sacred space is that within that space, it's easier for you to take the fullness of your attention and awareness. You put it in like, does she like me? Am I okay over here? Just the stuff that we think we're keeping in check. To take it all from that, just to put it right here in the being. That's the intent, is to be fully in the body. Right? And then that is the ceremonial setting. So ceremony is pretty much, you sit down, you take whatever the plant is, and however it's administered. And then, if the person's worth their salt, they secure that space. Because when you open up like that, you're opening up to dimensional things that have life like you do. Maybe not like you do, but they have life like you do. And they have intentions like you do. Not quite like you do, but like you do. So it's different. Right? And some of it is not pleasant. And what's truly not pleasant is some of the things that come out of people. Right? If someone has just created so much havoc in their life from doing just some dirty deed, they're the ones laying on the floor writhing, and it looks like something out of an exorcism. Oh yeah, screaming, just different, and then puking and writhing and screaming and yelling. Right? So the ceremonial element is to bring life into it. Because it's really what you're engaging anyway. Life in a scope that you're not used to. It's like looking out of a lens and seeing the world in a way you never have before. And it's not just seeing it, you're feeling it too. So it's not like you're hallucinating. You eat a plant and you start hallucinating. No, you eat a plant, you're going to feel feelings. You're going to feel temperature changes. You're going to feel elements of your organs that you were never aware of before. You're going to feel elements of your breathing you never had before. You're going to notice little balls of shit tucked into a beautiful thought somewhere. Right? You're going to notice where your intentions really are. You're going to notice how weak or strong your will is. Maybe because how many times you go, I don't want to think that, I don't want to think that, I don't want to think that, and you end up thinking it. Your will says, I don't want to do it, but who's got the will here? So you get to see that too, right? Like, do you own your will, or does the impression that you get from other people own you? What owns your will? What causes you to move? If this person's upset with you, does that cause you to behave a different way? Where's your will? And so you get to really play with that in a really intricate way. that you wouldn't normally be able to. Because you take plant medicine, you go out there, you're going to be like behind a bush just going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What's going on out here? This is so crazy. Demons walking by. And, right? So with the elders, they would hold space, much like this one. The rounder, the better. And they hold that. They just hold the parameters of that. So, and then they invite those medicine spirits, which is just, if you think of a spirit as an energetic configuration, they're endless. You are an energetic configuration yourself. Right? You just happen to show up like this. There's some that don't show up like this. They show up other ways. Right? And these human eyes can't see it. But you start taking that vibratory pattern of the energy within, shifting it a little bit by inviting something in to like charge it, so to speak. Boom! Now suddenly you're seeing things, and they're there. Right? Some of those spirits don't have good intentions for you. They just don't. Right? So part of what you call the training, to me, mainly is to deal with that. Because people have it within them. Once they peel all the layers of darkness out, they know what the truth is about themselves. They know. So you don't have to, not much you got to do there. You just got to give them the space to be able to do it. Right? And not judge them if it takes too long. You don't even really participate at that level. You participate truly as a person who's there to help them. Not encourage them, not manipulate them, not try to steer them down some belief path. Just hold space for them to do their work. Right? And if they go, need a little help here, it's basically just it's not like you. It's not like, oh, thank you. I'm like, all right. That's pretty much, and that medicine songs. They're vibratory connections between this dimension and the ones the plants are ushering us into. And it's funny because people get really weird about it. What plants? What do you need plants for? I don't know. What do you need carrots for? Let's plant. Right? It's like one nourishes your body. We eat these little, I have my herbal supplements. This will make my brain better. I'm taking my ginkgo biloba. That's a plant. So you use it to eat for food. You'll use it for vitamins. You'll use it for everything other than what? Your consciousness? Well, wait a minute. Why would you do that? Why stop there? I mean, it's pretty much you're using it for every aspect of your physical being. Why not push the envelope? Because we can, right? I think that's, for anybody to really have any chance in this country, is you have to demand the freedoms you were given. In all aspects. And that's a big one. Thing that really, if our culture, our Western culture, really, really, really wants some reconciliation, they should fight like crazy to give those cultures their right to these things back. Right? And in doing so, give it to us too. That we have the right to feel good in here. Right? And plants, do they cause problems? I don't know. I've been working in a long time, and other than some people having some hard nights, occasionally, the irresponsible children who are going to go run amok in a city and get caught up in something that they just are too baked out to understand. Right? So, to me, I'll hold space for people here. I do. If they have their, whatever it is they are going to do, I'm like, hey, will you? Yes, if you're going to do that anyway, I'd like to provide you a space where you can use this for therapy. So you have a therapeutic experience within your own being. Maybe be convinced that you really do control this. But you don't control it with these ideas of how you control it. You control it with where you put the attention. Wherever you put the life force will reflect it back to you. So if you just constantly, for me it was like pretty simple, and I don't know, maybe it's too simple for people to understand. I always gave attention back to itself. That until I could understand what was looking out of my eyeballs and where I was looking from. And truly, I don't understand any more now than I did then. I just trust the process more. I trust the mystery more than I've ever. I'll say that. It's still a mystery as to where this all. I don't know if I want to know yet. I mean, that would be the end of the trip. Right? I kind of want to experience this over, infinity kind of flow through things. I want to be alive through it all. Right? But for me, it's gone beyond the body. It really is. It's not. I get why the animals basically take a nap all day, hunt a little bit, eat a little bit, poop a little bit, drink a little bit, play a little bit, and sleep a lot. Like an animal should. Right? Because if we could do that, we would go, how awesome that would be. Just like, right? And to be able to, but it would be great if we could, and the only reason we don't have that is because we can't engage the further. And when an animal's sitting like that, they're not looking at what's in front of them. They are looking into the vast universe. They have nothing blocking their view. They don't have an identity of themselves that's walled them off from that. So they can just whoosh. Yeah, I kind of, this will be the last thing I say, because I've been talking too much, it's all gibberish anyway. Consciousness is, if you see it as an infinite plane, that you're all on, right? And that what you actually are calling yourself is this little corral you made, right? And you sit inside of it, and you go to the outer edges of it, and anything beyond it is foreign. Anything beyond it is not me. I must be me here, in this little corral. It's sad to say, but when you're deep in that ceremonial state, and I'll just say it's the weirdest thing you'll probably hear, and when you end up in another ceremony somewhere else with what people like to call ascended masters, and they're holding ceremony for you, and you're sitting there, and you look at the humans, you just see them like little sheep all in their own individual corral, just dotted out across the fields of consciousness. It's like, what is this? Well, that's you. It's like, wow. Right? So the way you break that down, honestly, is with breath. And when you feel that barrier, right, you just consciously do it. Right? Because you're not going to feel better until this grows. Until you expand that consciousness into other sources of energetic flow, you're not going to feel better. Yeah.
In the last few minutes, can you say something about the walls lining?
Oh, yeah. Both. So, in May, April, March 22nd to April 2nd, we are hosting a trip to Peru. It's 10 days at an ayahuasca retreat center. It'll be hosted, the guy that's going to let us use his place, his name is Ron Wheelock. He's also known as the Gringo Shaman of Icaros, Peru. Very wonderful man. Been at it down there since the early 80s. Came from Kansas, and no weird voodoo, no spells, no sorcery or witchcraft, or what we call brujeria, which is just people trying to steal your well-being, steal your vibe. So it will be, he'll be down, it will be at his place. And then we're also having a guest come down by the name of Mauro Perez. And he is a visionary artist from Pacopa. And Pablo Amaringo, if you're familiar with him, he ran a center of where he would do ceremonies and then have a visionary art workshop for people to create their own flow of medicine through that. And so he's agreed to come down and, for nothing more, and host 5 days of a visionary artist retreat. And the dude is amazing. We're talking solid individuals. Plus there will be other special guests that show up while we're down there. Some of them known, some of them unknown. Singers, space holders, whole deal. And so what it is it's 7 days of ayahuasca ceremonies in 10 days. So you do 3, take a day off, you do 3, take a day off, do 1, and that one's the powerhouse night. And then you kind of integrate that for the next couple of days. Actually, the rest of your life.
Facebook page written right there.
Yeah, right there in the Walls Landing.
All that is on there.
We've had this is Angela, she's my wife. We've had this going for about 2 years. It's called the Walls Landing. And you know about it. You know about it. You know about it. I mean, there's people here, yeah. So what we do is we hold space for people. We have a lot of young people that come up just broken. And just try to help them put it back together, get that energetic presence back, get them stable. Right? We have people visiting from all over. We go all over, just doing the work, of the being. Let's be beings. Let's be beings that understand love and presence and vitality. And people are wanting that. Right? So we've opened it up. We opened it up as a donation-based center because these workshops that people put on are super expensive, and there's no need for that. It's common people that really get it anyway. The ones that can't afford that. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's what I found. The ones that really value their presence are the ones who really can't afford to do it. So we try to keep it on a scale where people can actually participate and not feel like they're being robbed. We do accept donations on that page for the work there. We do host ceremonies in Peru. We do cacao ceremonies, which we could do one here. If anybody here would be interested, we could do that. Cacao can be extremely powerful. We can also work with cannabis, which some people say is not plant medicine, and I beg to differ. If you work with it in the right way, it is as powerful as anything else. The thing with cannabis is it's what we call an entourage. So ayahuasca has basically 2 forces holding that space. You have Madre Ayahuasca, which is the grandmother. You have Papa Tua, which is the male component to it. Those 2 are the head medicine spirits. Right? So Mapacho is strictly male. Boom! It's like this space is protected, period. Right? And so then you have Rena Maria, which is marijuana. The head medicine spirit's feminine, but it has an entourage. Right? So there's these 400 and some other spirits in there that you have to get past in order to actually get to what we call Rena Maria, Queen Maria, head medicine spirit. What she is she's a heart opener. Right? And it's interesting because once that heart opens up and your consciousness seats there, it's as visionary as it can get. Boom! Just, everything going on here, sitting in that divine presence. Because the divine presence is the heartbeat itself. It's animating you. You wouldn't be able to notice it without it. So it really puts you there. So, to work with it, it's about a 2 to 3 hour journey. And just in the beginning, it's just getting rid of all those lesser entities. Chasing them off. So it's like you got to dust the road of 400 rats. And then you can get to it. Which makes sense. I mean, it really does, because a lot of people, our society will rape the heart of people. It just does. And she's not having it. So she'll get you caught up in, I'm tired, I'm already there, I'm already feeling good, wrapped up in munchies, paranoia, couch lock, the millions of things that go on. Just to get you to stop, just to get anybody trying to crash the gate to stop. But if you go in with clear intent, those things have to step aside. I mean, I wrote this thing down, and I think it's something always worth sharing. That intent with no will has no legs. Will without awareness has no wings. There's your holy trinity of life. Right? Intent, will, and awareness. These are the three major components of your entire experience. Right? And so, there's a lot of people who expect some form of spiritual healing to go on with the plants. And that's not really how it works. So I asked Carlos one day, Carlos, what is spiritual healing? He says, Cristobal, it's the most retarded thing I've ever heard. I'm like, well, what's the reality? He's like, there's nothing real about spiritual healing. It's absurd. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, let me ask you a question. How do you heal something that never gets sick and never dies? He's like, what needs to be healed is not your spirit, it's your behavior towards it. Right? Because let's face it, most people are giving all of their allegiance to their own fabricated identity. That's an idol, by the way. It's something fashioned by the hands or the mind that gets more attention than that which made the person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's it. Time. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. I hope you got something out of this.
By the way, the wall's landing, the center is actually located in Blackhawk, Colorado, less than an hour away. We're going to stay here and talk and chat a bit if you want to one-on-one for about an hour or so. And have some more one-on-one time. But if you need to go, please go.
Yeah, if you guys need to go. If you want to hang out for a little bit, feel free.